The Business and Governance Committee meeting to order. Cynthia, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we have a quorum.
All right. I'd also like to start off by welcoming Lou Maggi.
Correct. Nicely done.
Thank you. It's good to have you here. All right. Any non-agenda public comment? Seeing none. Okay, thank you. Business. So let's start with new business. By the way, just so you guys know, Greg is kind enough to highlight my agenda for those of you who are required to speak. So the one thing he hasn't told me is how much time I'm allowed to allot you guys. And since we have to be out of here by 9:22, you have exactly 60 seconds. If you can't get it to me in 60 seconds, we're just going to cut you off. All right. Let's start with annual cost of living adjustments. Marcel? And start the timer, Cynthia.
Ready? Go. So the Chiron has given us their information on the annual cost of living adjustment. They are proposing a 1.9% increase for both our regular retirees and our 1981 plan retirees. That will be 1.9% is what anyone who retires July 1st of 18 through 6/30 of 19 would receive. If you retired earlier than that, you're still going to get the full 2% because you do have money in your bank to bring it up to the full 2%. But that will wipe out the bank for people that retired in fiscal 18 and fiscal 19. We've got probably it will end up being about 300 retirees who will receive the 1.9, and then over 10,000 who'll receive the full 2%. And happy to answer any other questions you may have.
All right. I don't see anybody in the queue. Are we going to vote on this? Ready to vote on this? Thank you.
So we need a mover and a second.
I'm not seeing any buttons.
No buttons.
No buttons.
Oh, you have a button. You're special.
Well, do me a favor. Would you make the motion so we can...
I think I just did.
I've been just told that I should have a button.
Yes.
I need a button.
I have a button.
I have no buttons.
No. You're supposed to have a button.
Okay, I did my part. I was less than 60 seconds.
Does everybody have buttons now?
No.
Second.
Okay.
David, I'm going to remember this when it comes to your turn, buddy, okay? I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah.
You're going to have negative time, I'm going to tell you.
Ready to vote?
Perfect.
There they are.
All votes are in.
And the motion passes 5-0. All right. Does anybody have are there any committee members that have any questions with regard to number 2, the revised PSC calculator and rates for purchase of service credit? All right, seeing none, let's go to item number, I'm sorry, we need to vote on that, so I apologize. I'll make that motion.
Ready to vote?
That motion passes, 5-0. All right, item number 3, staff's recommendation to adopt Rule 2.130, non-pensionable compensation for PEPRA members of the port and airport. Johnny, I understand that you want to speak on this?
I do. I'll take my full 60 seconds on this one.
30 for you.
Thank you.
You're a wordsmith. You should be able to do it in half the time.
So this is an action item, and the staff is asking that the board adopt new board rule 2.130, which will be the board's determination of what cannot be pensionable compensation for new members under PEPRA for the port and airport. Let me give you 50 seconds of background there. Pensionable compensation is the pay or the salary used to determine a person's retirement benefit. So generally speaking, the higher the pensionable compensation, the higher the retirement benefit. The state legislature passed PEPRA, and part of that legislation limited what could be pensionable compensation for new members that are subject to PEPRA, new members being those initially hired after January 1st, 2013. And the state legislator made the determination that public retirement systems, including SDCERS, should be to make the determination of what cannot be pensionable compensation under their definition of that term. And so PEPRA applies to both the Port District and the Airport Authority. It does not apply to the City of San Diego or its members because the City of San Diego is a charter city, and the state legislator purposely left out charter cities from PEPRA's legislation. So staff has worked on this item for many, many months and worked closely with the port as well as the airport, and I know Kurt Gehring's here, and we worked with him on this. And we've come to the consensus, which is before you, that the columns on the right of Board Rule 2.130 is what staff and the airport and the port believe should not be pensionable compensation for new members of the port and airport. Any questions on that?
Seeing none, let's get, can we vote on that?
Thank you.
Ready to vote? All votes are in.
And that motion passes 5-0. Okay, item number 4, staff's recommendation to revise Board Rules 2.41 and 4.0. Are there any questions by the committee? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve?
Ready to vote? All votes are in.
And that motion passes 5-0. Item number 5, staff's recommendation to revise the internal auditor charter, board process for review of internal auditor, and board process for review of chief executive officer and chief compliance officer. Are there any questions from anybody in committee? Seeing none, Cynthia, can we have the buttons, and can I get a motion?
Ready to vote? All votes are in.
And that passes 5-0. Okay, under new business, there's no action requested for these, but with respect to item number 1, SDCERS insurance broker, Johnny, I understand that you need another 60 seconds.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
You're down to 12 seconds of fame now, just so you know.
Appreciate that.
Okay, good.
Again, this is information only. Staff wanted to inform you that we'll be working with Gallagher brokerage management services for our insurances needs. And I wanted to give you a little background of why staff is deciding to do this. Since 2011, we've worked with Barney & Barney, which is now Marsh McLennan, under the leadership of John Nienhofer, in securing our insurance needs. Initially, it was just fiduciary insurance and has grown into different products like cyber insurance has become necessary. That relationship has been a good one. They've done a great job of getting coverage for us and working to reduce the price of our fiduciary insurance at its height. I think it was
Johnny, we're kicking them to the curb. You don't need to make
700,000.
them feel good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
I do want to explain it to you that it's not I think the Marsh McLennan has done a poor job. I just think what we're trying to do is capture the best coverage, service, and price. And at the recommendation of an insurance consultant that we worked with last year, because we've had such an outstanding and long-term relationship, try something new. So we went to the market and found Gallagher, which is a long-standing broker for several public retirement systems in the United States. They kind of specialize in what we do, and their model is a little different, I think, than Marsh McLennan in terms of pricing. So we've worked with them and really like their services. Specifically, we've looked at some cyber insurance, and they've been able to get a better coverage, less retention level for a third of the price. And I'd like to see if they can do something like that for our fiduciary insurance. In order to do that, the market and the industry proposes that we should have one broker of record. So in doing that, we'd like to appoint Gallagher to do that, see if they can continue to help SDCERS. Any questions about that? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Seeing none, let's get there. There is no old business, so we're going to get to status reports. Let's start off with member services. Cynthia?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely to see you all, and thank you for reading my report. Because you have read it, you know that we have a very strong team here with deep bench strength. And so, when I was looking to fill the very important role of communications manager and look through 200 impressive resumes, after the interview process, I found that the ideal candidate was sitting down the hallway in Johnny's division.
That was my first concern, so I'd like to talk about that.
So I'm going to explain that the excellent work that our team does here in looking at the skills that I think are the hardest to obtain if you come here, that is learning about this pension business and how all these rules work. And so that learning curve can be difficult. And the fact that we train all of our staff so well and work closely together, this just worked out perfectly for us. I would like to introduce to you Jessica Maloney. Thank you, Jessica. Jessica, as you know, was previously a wonderful paralegal in the legal division, and she has now been hired as our communications manager for SDCERS. As you saw in the report, she has done a surprising amount of work on our website behind the scenes and has an excellent knowledge of the SDCERS history, and I am very pleased that we will be hitting the ground running together. And since Thanasi knows what a good runner I am, he knows this will all be going very quickly. So Jessica has a degree in marine science and a minor in criminal justice, which means she's analytical and smart. She also has that paralegal degree, which I've found from our other colleagues is a very handy thing to have, makes people able to digest the law around here. So I'm very pleased about that, and most importantly, she's also a grammar queen. So by having her in the grammar court, that's a wonderful thing. So thank you, I appreciate all the support, and I know you'll feel comfortable working with her. I then would like to highlight another section of my report, which is to introduce the bravest person on my team, and her name is Andrea Valdez. If Andrea could please stand up. Andrea was only in the last 8 or so months promoted into her position as a retirement analyst and in charge of the call center, and the new task we were wanting to prepare her for over the long term was to be giving retirement seminars. But instead, she learned how to do those in one day, and she has done 6 of them and presented to more than 350 people in the last month, doing excellent seminars over at the airport on their various plan tiers. These were brand new presentations in front of large groups, and she did an excellent job. And additionally, she went out and spoke with our wonderful firefighters from San Diego and did 2 full days of presentations there. She will next be going back to the airport and doing 4 individualized seminars for the folks there who are eligible to enter drop. So this is part of our action plan, taking it all to the next level of really being able to educate our members. And they're accomplishing all of that while still achieving the current call wait time of under 20 seconds. It was 8 so far this month, but I don't like to set our expectations too high. Everybody's doing a lot of stuff. So I just want to commend the group for their work, and thank you very much for your support of the team.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for Cynthia? All right. I do not have any requests to speak on items 3, 4, 5, and 6. Are there any questions of the committee members on any of those points? Oh. I'm sorry. Benefits Administration. Marcel.
That's why I talked so
I
fast.
was just going by my watch. We're already past time. I'm
I
sorry.
talked fast before, so I'd have a little bit of extra time on this one.
Go ahead. You're good.
So 2 things that I wanted to highlight in my report. One is health open enrollment is coming up for city retirees. It is only for our city retirees, but it is a very big deal for them. And we have our kickoff meeting on May 24th over at Balboa Park. That will be all of the vendors there to give very short presentations, and then they'll have booths set up for members to go around and ask questions. As you may recall, last year was not our smoothest year with the change in providers. The booklets didn't get out to our members until after open enrollment had already started. It was a little bit of a rocky start to it. Ended up being fine, but a little rocky start. This year, the books will be in their hands, ideally, before May 24th, which will be great. So they'll be able to have that with them, go and ask questions of the vendors, and hopefully have it be a much smoother process this year. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is the first thing I talked about, which was attending the CalPERS General Assembly. And that was the 3rd time that I've been on a CalPERS panel. And I want to express appreciation to the board and to Greg for supporting staff doing things like this. We attend the CalPERS General Assembly. We have staff that attend the CalPERS roundtables. If you're not familiar, CalPERS is the statewide organization of public retirement systems. They do a lot of education. We also have staff that attend their management academy, which is very similar to the city's management academy. And the end result of all of that is the connections that we make, and that has proven invaluable. It was helpful as we went through looking at Pepper and looking at how other places have done their Pepper implementations. It's helpful in looking at how other organizations structure their businesses. How do they have their benefits administration? How is their member services structured? It's helpful in looking at, are there process improvements from meeting with these other entities? And then the final one, which is the one that really impacts members, is one of our challenges is in reciprocity. It's very complex. It seems like it should be straightforward, and it's not. And having made these connections by both staff and our leadership team, when we have these challenges come up, we can pick up the phone, talk to a live body, not send an email to an inbox that says reciprocity, and it really has made a huge difference. So again, thank you for supporting us in going to those events. And that's it.
Thank you. Any committee members have any questions of Marcel? No? Okay. So, and Lou, you'll guess my style here, but I presuppose and assume that all of the committee members can read. So that's how I approach these things. But does any committee member have any questions about any of the topics 3 through 6? Seeing none, do any of the staff members have any changes to their reports they want to make? Any discussions that they feel like they need to alert us to? Great, seeing none. I do want to just point out one thing. I had lunch with Greg, which we refer to as Tuesdays with Maury, which are both anticipated and yet very morbid at the same time. And I was specifically told by Greg that that my traditional jovial jocularity is not necessarily the greatest attribute that I have. And so I've been told that I have to be nice to staff. The one thing I will say is, as Greg listed the staff members who are protected classes now, Ted was not on that list, which I thought was very interesting. And so I don't know how to read that, Ted. But what I do want to point out is because of that, I want to tell you, first of all, greatest memo I've ever read of yours. 3 sentences, and only two of them were run-ons, and they were fantastic. Do you want to comment on your report, which was genius this time? I got to tell you. No, you sure? Okay. All right. Just checking. So, in any event, thank you. Second thing, I will say, I'm going to be serious for just 2 seconds, and that's longer than I usually am. Greg, when you first came onto the board, you had a mandate by the board to develop staff, go out, expose them to different groups and organizations and whatnot, and to kind of develop them and sort of essentially develop your replacement. I just want to just say for the record, I think you've been doing that. I think you've done a great job of that. I can see where Johnny and Marcel have both. I mean, I'm sure it's across the board, but it's been very apparent in these meetings that Johnny and Marcel have really, I think, sort of benefited from that. And I just want to say, I want to thank you. I think you're doing a good job of achieving that. So, with that, any questions or comments from any of the trustees? No, seeing none. Okay. Any non-docketed items? No. Okay, then we're adjourned.